horror story. This is a true story. This is a story of manipulation, deception, bloodlust, a predator. This is a story of an extremely vulnerable victim, a story about mental health, lack of self-worth. Ultimately, this is a story of amazing coincidences and a killer caught and convicted. This is the story of the murder of Elaine O'Hara by Graham Dwyer.
Okay, I'll try it really slow now.
This is Graham Dwyer, a man who likes to stab women while having sex with them. He's originally from Bandon in County Cork, a father of 3, an architect, a man who played with model airplanes in some of his spare time, and now a convicted killer facing a life sentence in prison. Dwyer posted a number of videos on YouTube relating to his passion for model airplanes. He also posted one video going around a racetrack in a Porsche. But he also took other videos he kept in his private collection. Videos of violence, videos of him inflicting severe pain and humiliation on women. The 46-day trial spread over 10 weeks had many memorable and harrowing moments, none more so than Monday the 9th of March. On that day, the jury viewed very distressing video clips retrieved from Graham Dwyer's laptop. Some showed him stabbing Elaine O'Hara in the stomach while having sex with her. She is gagged, and you can hear her cry out in pain. These videos were taken sometime around 2008. In another video, Dwyer stabs a different woman beneath her breast and brings the camera closer to film the wound. In another, he stabs a third woman while shushing her, telling her to be quiet. Elaine O'Hara worked part-time in a newsagent in Blackrock. 2 of her work colleagues and friends, Caroline and Jane, sat down and spoke with us.
It was a known fact that Elaine self-harmed. Elaine never tried to cover up the fact that she self-harmed. I mean, she'd wear short-sleeve T-shirts with scratches all over her, but she was in the shop and she stretched up to get something and she had bandages on her stomach, and I just kind of passively said, Elaine, what have you done to yourself? You know, what are you doing to yourself? And she said, oh, it's all right, it's nothing, Caroline, it's nothing, that Caroline. But in hindsight now, maybe, you know, doesn't seem that it was her that was doing it at all. Like,
I knew she had mental health issues. We didn't have a name or a diagnosis of what was actually the issue with her. We knew that when she got very stressed, or say coming up to exams, or any time there was any bit of pressure on her, she seemed to return to the hospital.
You spoke with her on that day, that last day in August of 2012, didn't you?
I did. She was in great form. She was delighted to be getting out of hospital, and she was excited about volunteering to do the tall ships. And she was joking with me, like, I've escaped, I've got out. It was like she was getting out of prison rather than out of hospital. And I was teasing her about maybe she'd meet a nice man and go off with one of these sailors.
What Elaine was looking for more than anything was someone to love her and have a companion. She was a very lonely, vulnerable girl, and he couldn't have picked a better person, a more vulnerable person to prey on, because Elaine would have been just delighted of the attention that she was receiving from him, regardless of it being such a bad attention or whatever. But she would have been delighted with it. She was just looking for love, really, that's it.
This is a website called alt.com, which we heard about in the case at the Central Criminal Court. Alt.com is for people interested in bondage, domination and sadomasochism. The images, and there are thousands of images on this website, are all very explicit. It is on this website that Elaine O'Hara came in contact initially with Graham Dwyer. On this website we have found Elaine O'Hara's profile 2.5 years after her death. Her profile still exists in cyberspace on this website. She wrote that she wanted to be a better submissive, and in outlining a profile she says, "Hi, I hate these things as I think you never really know a person until you meet them. So well, here it goes. And she then continues outlining a little bit about herself.
It was actually said in passing one night that she had a preference for domination, is that what? And we kind of shrugged it off as being, you know, Elaine kind of just trying to... She had a tendency to exaggerate a little bit.
And shock.
Yeah. But there was one particular occasion that she did tell me. We were both working together one evening and we were chatting away, and she told me that she was having a relationship with a married man and that he was treating her really, really badly and wasn't kind to her and all this kind of stuff. And I just said to her, look, try and get out of it, you know, get out of that relationship, it's crazy. And I'm annoyed with myself that I didn't, you know, get deeper into it. And because she was obviously really just trying to, you know, confide in somebody about it, you know. And I'm annoyed with myself that I didn't actually push her a little bit more on it, you know, because it was never mentioned again. She never brought it up, and I never brought it up again. So.
Hello, incident room.
The incident room here at Blackrock Garda Station was the base for detectives investigating the murder of Elaine O'Hara. These Gardaí had never experienced an investigation like it. It was to take them into the world of bondage and sadomasochism, and one very dark mind. Every criminal investigation needs a lucky break or two, and in this case the first one came before Elaine O'Hara's body was found. She was still a missing person, and most people assumed she had taken her own life. But down in Vartry Reservoir, on a sunny September day in 2013, 3 old school friends stopped for a chat on the bridge. What happened next was extraordinary. I met 2 of the men at the scene.
It was an extremely dry summer, and the reservoir levels are dictated by the weather and the water use within Dublin. So it was the lowest I'd ever encountered it.
James and William were already here parked on the bridge, and I pulled in. We went to school, we were schoolmates, and we just pulled in for a chat, and we were just looking over the wall, and we just happened to notice something in the water. It was a yellow rope and something shiny on it, and we kept questioning what it was, and then curiosity got the better of us, and I went to my van and I got a ratchet strap out with a hook on it and actually stood on the wall and kept fishing it into it, and we eventually snagged something. I pulled up and it was a white girl's vest, and we just plonked it on the wall and went again, and it was a sort of a blue hoodie came up next, all innocent things. And then eventually I snagged a part of the rope and pulled up the rope, and there was a couple of sets of handcuffs and leg restraints on it. And next thing we found a mask. It was just a leather strap basically that went around and came around this way and then down, and there was a ball that's placed in your mouth.
There was 2 sets of handcuffs, and they were on chains. The chains were in an X shape, and at each end there was a set of cuffs. There was the leg restraints were like big leather, thick restraints.
We even at one stage we just said jokingly we'll stop, because we didn't know what we were going to pull up. And like I say, we just piled them all up and left them on the wall then, and just went off about our business then.
When I was driving around at night, it was niggling at me, you know, about these things, and maybe there was something more sinister. The next morning then I came back and the stuff was all untouched on top of the wall still, so I had a bag in the van, and I put the stuff in the bag and I brought it up to the Garda station around with to Jim Dunne, who was on duty at the time, and he took it from there then himself.
At Roundwood Garda Station, I meet Garda James O'Donoghue, whose niggling curiosity would soon lead to a massive murder investigation.
It was approximately 1 p.m. that day when Mr. Fagan came to the Garda station. He had in his possession a number of items that he stated that he had found on the previous day. There was handcuff shackles, there was a couple of items of adult nature, as well as a couple of items of clothing. It was apparent that all these items had been submerged in water for a considerable time. I hung these items in an area in the Garda station that we would refer to as a drying room. My intention was to air dry these items before lodging them into evidence. The other items, such as the shackles, were immediately put in evidence bags and kept in the station for safekeeping. While I wasn't aware of any crime that was committed, I took precautions in how they were stored.
And what did you do over the following days?
Well, the following day, which would have been the 12th of September, I looked into the water where Mr. Fagan had said he had fished the items out of, and it was very dark and murky water. I couldn't see anything in the water on that date.
Before James had a chance to try again, and in a remarkable coincidence, a horrific and chance discovery was being made 25 kilometres away at Killakee.
Human skeletal remains were discovered here in a wooded area at Killakee Mountain near Rathfarnham in South Dublin on Friday evening by a woman out walking her dog.
I returned again on the 14th of September. Unfortunately, due to the darkness of the water, I still couldn't see anything. On the third date that I went to the reservoir, I had brought with me, I suppose, a set of Wellingtons, just in case. I had not planned on going into the water on that date, but I was being prepared just in case I'd have to. Once I had entered the water, visibility became zero. I could not see anything at all in front of me because the silts had been raised at that point.
Is it far?
No, it's only a couple of kilometres from here. It became a fingertip search, and I put my hand into the silt, I suppose, and just began dredging to see if I would come across anything. I had located the set of keys and a knife and an inhaler and other items of adult paraphernalia, and I had observed a part of a Nokia mobile phone. The keys consisted of house keys, car keys, what a person would normally have on their keychain, which piqued my interest even more because a person doesn't normally dispose of their set of keys. On this set of keys, I observed a number of tags, loyalty tags, one of them being a Dunnes Stores key fob. At this moment in time, I was very concerned that something was wrong. So I contacted the customer service department of Dunnes Stores, in which case I had requested information on the barcode number of this tag. It was then the following day, I believe it was the 17th of September, that I received a call back while I was off duty from Dunnes Stores, from the customer service department, in which they identified the tag as belonging to that of Elaine O'Hara. At that moment in time, the name hadn't been released of the remains that had been found in Killakee. I had contacted the Garda Information Service Centre, which is a service that guards would have for creating and accessing incidents on Pulse. I ran the name with them, and I got back the information that this person had been a missing person for approximately 1 year. I contacted my immediate supervisor in Roundwood, Sergeant Riley, and I bring the matter to his attention. I'm made aware then by Sergeant Riley that the remains of Elaine O'Hara had been found the previous days. However, they had just been identified on that specific morning as that of Elaine O'Hara. At that moment in time, I think we both realised that we had a serious matter on our hands.
As Garda O'Donoghue sealed off the scene, another Garda, Wayne Farrell, soon arrived, and he used a shovel and spade to retrieve even more items, including more handcuffs and a Nokia mobile phone. Within hours, members of the Garda Sub-Aqua unit were searching the shallow water, and they found even more items. They found a second Nokia phone, 2 SIM cards, some sex toys, another set of handcuffs, a pair of shorts, a dressing gown, and Elaine O'Hara's glasses. This is the moment they found a rucksack that would also later prove significant. In September 2013, this reservoir was giving up its secrets of the horrific death of a woman who for over a year was listed as a missing person.
And finally, you're also looking for help in trying to track down a missing person. Yeah, Elaine O'Hara, she's been missing for just over a month now. She went missing on the 22nd of August. We have found Elaine's car, but it hasn't given us any clues as to Elaine's whereabouts at the moment. She's about 5'4", she's 36 years of age, and there's an excellent picture of her there on the screen. Well, we are almost at the end of our...
That crime call appeal was made from the RTE studios in Donnybrook. 3 months later, 4 months after he murdered Elaine, Graham Dwyer actually enjoyed a night out in RTE. He was in the audience for an edition of The Late Late Show in December 2012.
And we'll be back after the break.
It was in marshy forest like this at Killakee that the body of Elaine O'Hara lay exposed for 13 months. In death, she suffered such indignity. Only 2/3 of her body was ever found. There were signs of animal activity in the area. Her skull was never located. Her hand bones never found.
The full incident room was being set up at Blackrock in Dublin in what was a fast-moving murder inquiry. A forensic analysis was being conducted on the 2 phones taken from the water at Vartry. They still worked and would soon reveal hundreds of text messages between each other. One phone had saved the other's number as MSTR, or master, and the other was saved as SLV, for slave. Gardaí analysed months of CCTV footage of Elaine O'Hara's apartment complex. They noticed a man visiting a number of times. 1 week before Elaine's disappearance, he was spotted leaving the complex with a similar backpack to the one later found dumped in the reservoir. Elaine's apartment was examined once again, and semen stains on her mattress gave a particular DNA profile that would later be matched to Graham Dwyer. An analysis of her iPhone and laptop indicated she had been involved in the world of bondage and sadomasochism. Graham Dwyer's wife Gemma would later tell the Central Criminal Court that on the day Elaine O'Hara's body was found, she knew that she and her husband had gone for dinner in Dublin City. She recognised the date. It was both their birthdays. Throughout this time, Graham Dwyer showed no indication that anything was wrong. He would have known that not only had Elaine's body been found, but that so many items had been found at the reservoir, including the phones. But he kept his cool. The work done in this case by Gardaí from the Computer Crime Investigation Unit was central to unlocking the mysteries of the phones and laptops of Elaine O'Hara and Graham Dwyer. Detectives from the unit, such as Alan Brown and Breed Wallace, have all studied at the Digital Forensics Department in UCD.
Pretty much all of the investigators doing this sort of investigative work in the Garda Síochána have gone through our program. Digital forensics is an interesting discipline. When you just select a file in Windows or on Mac and hit delete button, it doesn't disappear. Because the system is user-friendly, it places it into the recycle bin in case you accidentally deleted it and want to recover it. So when this happens, the file is not even deleted, it just moved to a different folder. A hidden folder, but folder nevertheless. This is a typical piece of equipment used for extracting data from mobile phones.
And despite spending over a year underwater, the 2 Nokia phones were reactivated by Gardaí. They proved a great source of information.
Integrated circuits are a great invention of the humankind. It's common to have mobile devices, for example, covered in blood or partially destroyed or even shot sometimes. And it's digital forensics, especially mobile phone forensics, is a bit of an art. So you need a skilled professional who is not just knows theoretically how computers operate or not just able to write computer program, but is able to get a soldering iron and get the device up and running, at least to a point when the data can be extracted.
Gardaí would soon unlock thousands of text messages sent between Graham Dwyer and Elaine O'Hara. Dwyer used the 086 master phone and an 083 ready-to-go phone to contact Elaine. The 083 handset was never found, but his messages were saved by Elaine. The texts from Dwyer showed how he was deeply manipulative, with his threats of violence escalating. This is just a flavour. I'm your secret killer. My urge to rape, stab and kill is huge. Still dying to knife someone. Stab, 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 rape, kill. It will all be worth it when I kill you. Smiley face. Elaine O'Hara spoke of wanting a baby, a loving relationship, not being stabbed anymore. At one point she texted, I'm a person, I have dignity. Dwyer responded, not when you're chained up you don't. Policing analyst Sarah Sked outlined to the trial how on many occasions the phones in contact with Elaine O'Hara were close to wherever Graham Dwyer was, from Howth to Galway. The prosecution said the phones were like his shadow.
Technology was a central part of this investigation. The masts like this one on top of the ESB head office in Dublin City were core to the prosecution case. Graham Dwyer worked just around the corner on Bagot Street, and his mobile phone would ping off this mast here. Two other phones were also often detected in this general area. One was the 083 phone, which had re-established contact with Elaine O'Hara in March 2011. The other, the 086 master phone, which had been in contact with her on the day that she disappeared.
In the 48 hours before her death, these are just some of the texts Dwyer sent to Elaine.
It's deeply distressing that a woman like Elaine O'Hara allowed herself have pain inflicted on her. She allowed herself to be harmed. She was unable to stop that. She didn't seem... At one level, she did want to stop it because she tried to avoid the relationship, but at another level she was unable to avoid it. So her own sense of self-worth, her sense of herself as a valuable human being who was respected and loved was shattered.
Elaine O'Hara drove out of Bellarmine Plaza in the late afternoon of the 22nd of August 2012. She was under instructions from Graham Dwyer to leave her iPhone at home and just bring her slave phone. As she headed for Shankill in her Fiat Punto, she knew Dwyer was planning to stab her, but she had no idea he was actually going to kill her. She had texted him, "Sir, are you coming back to my place? I need to clean." Ominously, he texted back, "No, I won't be back at your place." When she expressed concern about being stabbed in the open, he told her not to worry. When Elaine texted Graham Dwyer that she hadn't eaten, he responded, "More painful getting stabbed on an empty stomach. Suit yourself, see you in a bit, X." Just after 5:20, Elaine arrived at Shanganagh. Hours earlier, she had been at the nearby cemetery with her father, visiting her mother's grave. Now she was back, she was alone, and she was unknowingly heading to her death.
Shanganagh Park is a very big park. Elaine O'Hara had parked her car back in the car park and had then gone looking for the footbridge. She was under instructions on her phone to find that footbridge and go to it. She walked through this football pitch trying to find that bridge.
A man who jogged in Shanganagh Park that day was the last person to speak with Elaine O'Hara before she fell prey to Graham Dwyer's murder plan. Having gone halfway into the park, Elaine couldn't see the footbridge which goes over the dart track. She paused. She stopped the jogger and asked for directions. By chance, the jogger was using an app on his phone called Map My Run, and he would later be able to tell Gardaí he encountered Elaine O'Hara at around 6:20. In broad daylight in South County Dublin, a woman was walking to her death. The only person who knew this was Graham Dwyer. The planning put into Elaine's final journey showed cunning. Dwyer orchestrated a situation whereby Elaine had come all the way through the park and he would take her away a different exit. The jogger passed by Elaine again. It was a fleeting passing, but he would remember that she was just over the footbridge and sort of standing still. This is a corner of Shanganagh Park that's really close to the shoreline. It would have taken Elaine O'Hara maybe 20 minutes or more to get from where she left her car at the far end down to this location. She was under those instructions on her phone to go down to the shore and wait. We can only guess that she actually got down this far because nobody ever said they saw her down at the shoreline. Even if she did get this far, she must have come back up because cars could come right down here from a nearby estate. The theory is that a car came down, did a U-turn, Elaine O'Hara got into it, and that car took her up to Killakee. It was the detail in the various phones that very quickly led Gardaí to the door of Graham Dwyer, a successful architect, a father of 2 young children and an adult son. This footage of Graham Dwyer from the year 2000 is a world away from what detectives would arrest him for 13 years later.
So the natural light coming around the mirror lights you to give it an even image. Most mirrors are top lit and create a shadow under your chin.
The texts to Elaine O'Hara by the mystery person left very valuable clues to his identity. The texts indicated his daughter had been born on a given date. He had bought a bike on a particular date. He had received a pay cut. He had come 5th in a flying competition in June 2011. 6 weeks after the body of Elaine O'Hara was found, and all those items in Vartry, detectives called to the door of Graham Dwyer at Kerryman Close in Foxrock. He was arrested on suspicion of murder. In Garda interviews, he refused to accept he was the owner of the 083 and 086 phones that had texted Elaine O'Hara. He eventually admitted they had a sexual relationship. On the 18th of October 2013, Graham Dwyer was charged with murder.
Graham Dwyer didn't speak during the brief hearing because he's facing a charge of murder. An application for bail will have to be made to the High Court as the District Court does not have the jurisdiction to grant it. Judge Bridget Riley remanded Graham Dwyer in custody to appear again at Clover Hill District Court this day week.
Dwyer would never be granted bail. Despite even appealing to the Supreme Court, he was kept in custody after Gardaí outlined the reasons for their belief that Graham Dwyer had an ongoing and insatiable appetite to stab women. The forensic search of Dwyer's laptop was revealing further detail of a disturbed mind. There were short stories, including one about a man travelling to Newcastle and raping a woman at knife point. Another document was called Killing Darcy. Detectives soon established Darcy was real. She was Darcy Day, a young woman in the United States. Graham Dwyer had met her on the internet and offered to kill her. Miss Day, who's now a born-again Christian, gave evidence at the murder trial and posted this message on YouTube in advance.
9 months ago, I got a knock on my door from a detective from the Major Crimes Unit. And apparently, one of the men that I talked to online ended up being suspected of murdering a woman that he was acquainted with. And I am now a key witness in a murder trial. And in another 2 to 3 weeks, I have to take the stand and give my testimony against this alleged killer. And I want to start off first I just want to start off by I want to pray for this man. And I want you all to pray for the family of this woman who was murdered.
The trial at the Central Criminal Court heard that the evidence against Graham Dwyer was circumstantial. There was no medical cause of death. There were no stab injuries to the bones that were recovered. Defence barrister Remy Farrell pointed to this and said it was possible Elaine O'Hara might have taken her own life. Prosecuting barrister Sean Gearan said the series of texts indicating a desire to stab allowed the jury to reach a conclusion Graham Dwyer was turning fantasy into fact. And so, after 43 days of evidence spread over 10 weeks, in which we heard from 197 witnesses, it fell to a jury of 7 men and 5 women to decide if Graham Dwyer was guilty or not guilty of the murder of Elaine O'Hara. On the day that Elaine O'Hara disappeared, Graham Dwyer's work phone last pinged off this mast in Dublin City at 4:55 p.m. There was no further trace of that phone until 8:59 that night, when it was detected in the Foxrock area. We can assume that he turned off his phone during this time, and as he headed from Dublin City out towards Shankill, he was texting Elaine O'Hara on the 086 master phone.
We have to go to the Central Criminal Court and to Fergal Keane because the jury is back in the Graham Dwyer case. Fergal?
I can tell you that Graham Dwyer has been found guilty by unanimous verdict of the murder of Elaine O'Hara on August 22nd in 2012.
Yesterday, the day after the verdict, I sat down with the Chief Superintendent in charge of the case. He told me that within 4 days of the incident room being set up, Graham Dwyer was a suspect. Dermot, how soon did Graham Dwyer become a person of interest and how did that come about?
On the 20th of September 2013, it was indicated to me that a person by the name of Dwyer or O'Dwyer, who actually worked in Baggot Street, may be a person of interest to the investigation team in Blackrock. The inquiries conducted in relation to Graham Dwyer revealed that there were numerous commonalities between him and data that had been retrieved from data devices that was being analysed at the incident room in Blackrock.
You actually searched his bin left out on the public footpath?
Yes, we did, and the reason for it was the consequences of getting this wrong would have been catastrophic. Well, I was aware that a DNA sample had been retrieved from a mattress that had been brought to forensics from Elaine O'Hara's apartment. In an effort to reaffirm my suspicion of Graham Dwyer, I thought it prudent that a DNA sample could be, or should be, or an effort could be made to retrieve a DNA sample so it could be compared to the sample that had been retrieved from the apartment. I think this is a crime that has had profound and devastating consequences for a number of people. One of the things about this investigation is that it involved nearly every section of An Garda Síochána, and some exemplary work was conducted. People who were involved in this investigation had to deal with some very disturbing material, but in particular I want to pay compliments to Detective Garda Breed Wallace, who went through thousands and thousands of images, many of them, or probably all of them, very, very disturbing and upsetting. One of the features that actually struck me personally is the dignity displayed by Frank O'Hara and his family and his partner Sheila.
The jury deserve huge credit and praise for the work they have done. They're ordinary people from the general population who have given their time, but much more than that, they have sat through the most vile of videos. It was extremely difficult for them.
Graham Dwyer is tonight still in Clover Hill Prison. On the 20th of April, he will be formally sentenced when Elaine O'Hara's family will give a victim impact statement. But only one sentence awaits Graham Dwyer. For the crime of murder, it's a mandatory life sentence. one element this case contained was uncanny coincidences.
Well, it appears like an amazing coincidence. It was almost like someone was looking down from her. It's just very coincidental.
On the day, we didn't think anything of it. We just thought it was rubbish. But when you see the bigger picture, we're glad. And even talking to different guards in the court, it linked everything together. And just by us basically being nosy to say the whole case hinged on that thing, it could have easily have just gone away. And so slightly proud.
Elaine was a human being. She had some very, very good qualities, and all that has been shown is the negative side of Elaine's life. She was a human being that still deserved to be respected. Her life was worth something.
Elaine O'Hara suffered more in life than anyone realised. Perhaps now, with her tormentor and killer jailed, she can finally rest in peace.